Run It Studios is the home of the Run Radio podcast and runradio.net, a podcast and station about the relentless, resilient, and innovative types, inspiring strides in life, business, and beyond. Welcome back to the Run Radio podcast. I'm your host, Trina Wilcox. My guest today is a writer who knows a thing or two about also being resilient and tenacious. I want to welcome Linda Drattell. How are you today?
Hello. Thank you, Trina, so much for having me on your podcast today.
Thank you for being here. I want listeners and viewers to know that if we pause a little bit, it's because we are using some accommodations for Lisa's hearing loss that she has experienced in her late 30s, which we'll get to in a minute. And so I'm glad we have the technology that we do today to make some of those setbacks a little bit easier.
Yes, yes.
So tell me, let's talk about that journey. When did you first notice you were losing your hearing?
When did I first notice my hearing loss?
Yeah.
It was my son was, I think, age 6 and my daughter was 3. And they were having a hard time because my daughter kept calling my name. She told me this later in life. And I wasn't responding to her. And my husband kept saying, focus, because he thought I just wasn't listening to him. And it finally boiled down to us being in the car one day and there was a whirring sound from the air conditioner. And I was the only one who didn't hear it. And they all said, Mom, get your hearing checked. So I went to the audiologist, and that was the first time we realized that I was losing my hearing. And I found out later in life that I had an uncle who lost his hearing the exact same age as I did. And then my brother also lost his hearing in one ear. I lost my hearing in both ears. So obviously it's something genetic.
Right. Do you have any of your hearing left, or is it all gone completely at this point?
Very little. I just got fitted with new hearing aids, which my husband insists does not work at all.
Oh, no.
Every so often he does a test. He stands behind me and he goes, what the? He says on a scale of 0 to 100, I think we're at 0.
Oh, no. Do you have a lot of hope for being able to get those adjusted and gain some of that hearing back?
Um, Not really. I do my best. I rely mostly on my captioning app on my phone. And we live now 6 months out of the year in Barcelona, Spain. So I'm relying on that same captioning app because it will also translate into
Yeah.
any language. So I have had no problem adapting to a new place because
Yeah.
I'm happy walking around with my phone and the app. In the meantime, other people are like, I've got to use a phone, I've got to use an app. And I said, well, hey, welcome to my world.
Really? It's funny when other
But
people are more frustrated than you are. That's
everyone's very accommodating, everybody's very understanding. So,
how was it emotionally to realize that you were losing such an important sense?
yes. Yeah.
Was that hard for you?
It was hard. I decided early on to learn American Sign Language. And that was extremely helpful. I went to the local community college and I learned so much. I learned about um, the concept of resilience. I learned about the deaf community. I learned about self advocacy, the history of people who are deaf and what they've had to do to self advocate. And um, that gave me a lot of hope. I ended up working for a deaf agency and worked as a advocate for other people who are hard of hearing and late deafened. And then I worked in community relations, and that was just very inspiring.
Oh, good. How long have you been writing? Did that happen as a result of losing your hearing, or have you always been a writer?
Actually, as far as poetry, I was writing that since I was a teenager.
Ah.
And one of my books, this is one of them. This is Remember This Day.
Oh.
And one of my poems that I absolutely love is called The Torrent and the Tree. I wrote that when I was 16 years old,
Oh.
but never tried to get it published or anything. So that's included in that collection. And I just kept on writing. And then we adopted our children from South America. And they, well, we just didn't seem to fit in our neighborhood and in a number of different situations. So I started writing about that. I wrote a fictional story about a woman who did not fit in. And then I found out that that story related to a lot of people because I shared the story with my friends and I said, "Hey, can I share my story with you?" And then they got all mad and said, "You're writing about me, aren't you?" I was like, "No, I'm writing about me." So then I realized that a lot of times what you write fictionally and poetry wise can really relate to a lot of other people. And that just made me feel really empowered. I'll give you an example. That poem, The Torrent and the Tree, it's about a tree fighting off these raging waters of a river after a storm. And the whole forest can see this tree is not going to live much longer, but it's fighting. And so it's just deciding these last few moments on earth are worth the fight. And so it became sort of symbolic. Like, is the poem about a tree? Is it about a group of people striving to survive? Is it about a nation undergoing war? Or is it about the woman who bought the book who is undergoing chemotherapy
Oh.
and said, "I am the tree"?
Yeah.
And that just gave me chills. I was just so excited about that. So that's what I love is that a lot of my stories about resilience and going through my hearing loss and going through a lot of different situations really related to a lot of people.
How many books have you written at this point?
I've published three so far. I've got Remember This Day and The Lighter Side of Horse Manure. This one's a serious one. And this one is a tongue in cheek one. This was when my horse was aging and I was told to put him down. And I was out to prove that my horse still had worth. I mean, I owned him for 29 years. He was 34. And so I just stood out there with him each day and I mucked his stall. And then I just noticed all the little quirks and behavior that he and his pasture buddies had. So I started writing really funny poems about that. And then I co wrote with Eve Marie Little. This is a children's book called Who Wants to Be Friends with a Dragon? And it was because I wanted to learn Spanish at the time, and she was tutoring me. And because I can't hear well, she was having me read children's stories in Spanish. And finally, she said, "You know what, Linda? It's time for you to write a children's story." So we were talking about what that children's story would be like. And so he said, "It'll be a dragon. And he doesn't think anybody will like him because he's got a long tail and he's green and he breathes fire and he has spikes." And I suddenly said, "You know what, Eve? That dragon is me because of my hearing loss. I'm afraid that nobody wants to get to know me because I'm different." And she said, "You know what, Linda? That dragon's me because I'm half American, half Mexican, and I don't fit in anywhere." And then we found this illustrator, Mark, and he said, "No, no, that dragon is me because I'm the son of Filipino immigrants and I don't fit in anywhere." And so that's when we realized the dragon actually represents anyone who feels they don't fit in. They're too tall, they're not pretty enough, they're not smart enough, or whatever, they're wrong religion. So that's why we did that book. And the dragon story won a distinguished, whatever that's called, uh, Distinguished Recognition Award from Independent Press Awards.
Very cool.
And Remember This Day won the Bronze Award from Reader Views Press.
Congratulations. That has to feel really good.
Thank you.
Do you have plans to write more books?
Yeah, I've got actually I've been planning a deaf related anthology. Although another guy started a deaf related anthology and he's going to publish 5 of my poems in his anthology.
Oh,
So I'll let that get published and then later on I'll probably do my own.
yeah.
And then I have another anthology that's just more on what's going on today and the frustrations that people feel. I try not to be political. I try to make sure that my poetry is touches people on all different sides of the fences
Mm,
because it doesn't make sense just to relate to one group of people. So this
right.
is really for everybody. So that's what I'm working on right now.
So, as someone who has an autoimmune disease and grown up feeling isolated at times, I also have sometimes called it my twisted gift because I feel like if I didn't deal with what I dealt with, I might not have tried certain things or connected with certain people. So, with your twisted gift of losing your hearing and meeting all of these new people in your life and even moving to another country, what silver linings have you came across through all this?
I just found first of all, I do want to say I also have autoimmune disease.
Oh, you got a whole boatload of stuff to deal with, didn't you?
Yeah, which is the reason why I've been afraid to get a cochlear implant because the medicine you take reduces your ability to fight off infection, and
Yes.
so I've been very nervous
Right.
about doing that. Um, but I have just found that you become more visual, and I just want to say you just find people reach out to you in different ways that maybe they may not think about if you didn't have these issues. So I take Spanish and I have a tutor. Well, I've had a series of tutors, and they've all been absolutely fantastic in working with me. They slowly mouth their enunciations so that I learn better. And I've really enjoyed it so much. I have people on the street tell me that I enunciate Spanish so well. How is that possible? Well, I've worked on it.
You've worked on it. Good, good.
And I don't know. Sometimes it just makes people feel that they have more of a connection with you sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, there are certain cafes that I go to, certain places that I shop that they now have gotten to know me and they're like, oh, yeah, hey, how are you
Yeah.
doing? They already know what kind of coffee I drink. And it just creates relationships that maybe I wouldn't have had. Maybe I wouldn't have reached out in a certain way.
Yeah. So when you're not writing, what are you doing? What do you enjoy?
Well, I had my horse and I had my goats. I had 4 goats, and they all passed away now. So you get to a stage in life where you have to reinvent yourself. Um, I also used to run. I loved running. I used to do a
Yes.
marathon and half marathons and lots of road races. And as you age, you get slower. I found I couldn't even train with the same people because
Oh
half
no.
hour later I'd show up where they've already been. So I just do more hiking and walking and that sort of thing. My husband and I have taken up tennis and we love it. He's very competitive against me. So I try doing these little drop shots and
Yeah.
placements because I can't, of course, hit as hard as he can.
Yeah.
And he was laughing because he fell trying to catch one of my drop shots the other day and did a major face plant. But that's our fun these days. And working out, do weightlifting, which is really important as you get older too.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so that and learning languages. And the fun part about being in Barcelona is that I feel like I have two languages to learn. I have Spanish, and then there's also Catalan and Catalan history. And so I'm reading up on Catalan history now. First, I want to get a good basis in Spanish, and then I would like to learn some Catalan.
Very good. Exciting. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your story with us. When you do have a few more books, come back and we'll talk about it. And who knows, maybe you'll have another farm by that point of animals.
I would love to. In the meantime, I do publish poetry regularly. I had two poems published in the last 2 weeks, and three poems were accepted in what's called an acrostic challenge. That's where you write poems and they match it to paintings or sculpture or art. So three of those are being matched and will be in the Dublin, California library um, in the month of June. And then I've been on a lot of podcasts and enjoy talking about my journey. And I have an adult novel that I completed, and I'm looking for a publisher that will hopefully publish that. But that's been a long journey.
Oh, well, if it doesn't work out that way, you can always self publish.
I know, I know.
So, where can people go to find your books and connect with you? Are you on social media?
Okay, I have a website. It's www.linda Drattell, my full name, LindaDrattell.com. And they can email me at lindadrattell@gmail.com.
All right.
And um, you can get all of my books on Amazon. You can also go to bookshop.org and find your local bookstore and order through them. And the Barnes and Noble online uh, bookshop will also order them. And my two poetry books have been published through Finishing Line Press, and you can order directly through them at finishinglinepress.com. And the Dragon Story was published by Dorrance Publishing Company. And I think it's Dorrance, Dorrance, Publishing Company.com.
All right. Just before we close, I have a couple of fun run rapid fire questions for you. So, if you could run to help anyone any time of the day, who would that be?
Well, actually, I'm helping somebody right now I'm very excited about. A woman from Afghanistan found me on LinkedIn, and she's 19 years old and asked for help. She's writing her own story dealing with her situation. And so writing is giving her hope. And so I reached out to a bunch of my fellow poets and said, we've got to help her. So five of us are now going to help her through LinkedIn. So I'm very excited about that. But that's the kind of person I think I could be most helpful to.
Good. If you could run anywhere in the world for any kind of food, what kind of food would you run after?
Oh, chocolate brownie.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's my weakness.
Where would you run to relax?
Yes, I always run to relax. It's like my meditation.
Yes, but what place would you run? Would you run to a beach? Would you run to a park? What place would you go
Um,
to do nothing?
I run to the hills.
The hills. I
I
love
always
that.
run to the
I
hills.
love
My
it.
husband makes fun of me. I said, I must have been a Sherpa in a previous life. And when we moved to Barcelona, I said, we have to have an apartment next to the hills. So we did. And I just run straight up whenever I can.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Lisa. Good luck with everything you're doing and come back anytime.
Keith, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. You can find more videos to watch or listen when you link over from runitstudios.com. We'll see you next time.